Okay.
All right, I am here live with Ken Francis, the new EVP of Video for DMP. You're the man of the people, Ken Francis.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about what your role is with DMP now.
Well, everyone in the industry knows that DMP has been a leader in the intrusion space. Not very many people realize that they've also grown into a fairly leadership role on the access control side. Everyone has always thought that DMP only integrates other people's video in associated with either the intrusion point or the access event. And they're right. DMP's been the best partner in the world.
Right.
But I think that there's a common thought that DMP has not moved into the how do we have our own video integrated with the intrusion and the access control, and maybe even how do we have our own video specifically for professionals who want to do video monitoring that might be integrated into other people's intrusion and access control systems. So candidly, I'm here to help the company cross the chasm to more video.
Interesting, because what I was going to ask you, the first thing I was like, well, what's the biggest misconception that people have about DMP? Because I think of DMP as an intrusion alarm company mostly, right? I know they do have other things, but that they OEM cameras, and things like that. So what do you say to that misconception?
The misconception is not uncommon. People think of DMP as being the intrusion segment leader, period. Hands down, make the best intrusion hardware. Not everyone knows that DMP's virtual keypad does a really, really good job of offering a unified platform between the intrusion functionality and when you add an access controlled door or reader, you get a pretty mature, I'm going to call it mid-market commercial intrusion access system. They can bring third-party video in to associate with those devices.
Okay.
But it really is about the user experience has wanted to be more alarm-ish. I believe that DMP, and sincerely for the last 5 years that I've been integrating video products with them, they have always talked about wanting to have video a bigger part of every aspect of the platform. And so literally in late 2024, as I was leaving the former big company that I operated, we talked about what this would look like to do, and we agreed that it had to be born from a very strong set of artificial intelligence, machine-learned analytics. And so I spent the last year working with them at a company called Actuate to build the new things that they're launching right now. So at ISC West booth, they will be showing the new virtual keypad Alarm Vision Plus and XV Plus gateways. That is all the most beautiful VMS with great RVM analytics.
So we know, well, I know, and most of you should know that Ken has got a lot of experience in the VMS world here in the security industry. So. You talked about kind of weaving video into all of the intrusion and in your speech just now at the Owners Forum. How would that work, and how is analytics reliable enough to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish with intrusion detection?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer the question about weaving in the VMS, because if all you're really doing is taking a short video clip associated with a door opening, you're really an access control user experience with a little clip of the video. Mm-hmm. If you want to follow somebody through the entire property, you can't really do that by tying clips to door openings.
Okay.
So if you're going to run some form of an analytic or an intelligence agent that's going to track someone through a facility, you've got to be a core VMS. And with that core VMS, what we call back-end, you can then expose APIs to other people's technology, like facial matching and those kinds of things, that will enable you to bring events in from outside.
So core VMS, do you mean that DMP is developing their own VMS, or you're developing it for them, or are you partnering with, maybe one of your former companies or something like that?
I'll be very candid. DMP's been developing their own VMS for over a year.
Okay.
It did initiate with a contract that they started to tie more RVM or remote video monitoring analytics into their platform, but the folks that are doing the work with them are so VMS strong that it was really easy to take microservices from pure VMS without the analytics and take it into virtual keypad. So virtual keypad's been getting a facelift. And you got to come by and see all the video functionality.
So interesting. So talking about the analytics, like, are they reliable enough to be able to use for intrusion, or maybe cheap enough to use for intrusion? That sort of thing.
I love that question because it's way beyond what you would get on a camera. Literally, for the last couple of years, I've been tracking a little over 800 video monitoring centers around the world, and those monitoring centers are using between 6 and 8 different video monitoring software packages. Everybody recognizes that in the U.S., there's companies like Emix and SureView and some others checked that have the market share of operators using their product. Very candidly, the monitoring centers that use those products, they will sincerely tell you that the analytics that are running on the camera are generally not good enough for true professional monitoring. And when you think about it, the fact that it can detect a people or a vehicle, well, that's great. It's a classification.
Right.
But it may very well, as a result of that, generate more false alarms than the operators would have gotten without it.
Right.
And so a lot of the monitoring centers will say, hey, look, I'm going to use one of these 3. Historically, it kind of started, I'll give Evalon a little shout out, Evalon and Calypso. Calypso was bought by Motorola.
Right.
A company by the name of Actuate came on the scene 7 or 8 years ago. At the time that they came on the scene, everybody was doing SMTP. 4 or 5 years ago, Actuate started going to running their machine learned analytics on RTSP streams, a much higher quality way of making detections. And I believe that's kind of, that's been a force factor in the evolution that we're seeing out in the marketplace.
Okay.
And so DMP worked with Actuate to wrapper those RVM analytics into both the on-site appliance, i.e. the edge, as well as their cloud filters, creating a hybrid solution.
Interesting. All right, so just to wrap it up, what's the future? What do you see the future for you at DMP and the future of DMP in general, as we move forward?
Wow, 2 very different questions. The future of DMP is bright, and the family is as involved in the business as they ever have been. And I've been working with Rick for 25 years. I've probably been working with Jeff, his son, for 10 or 12 years. We've had conversations about what video products. I've only more recently, in the last couple of years, gotten to know Brad Tucker, the head of product management, but they're all heavily engaged in this business. They want to make it really successful. I'm just glad that they asked me to join. I mean, this is what I've been wanting to do.
Okay.
It's the size and scale, and we can go global. There are already a toehold in Europe, a toehold in Southeast Asia, a toehold in Australia, New Zealand, a couple of really nice Latin American customers, and we have 8 or 9 more big Latin American customer opportunities that are here at the Owners Forum today. So we're going to blow this thing up. It's fun.
Nice. Well, thanks so much, Ken.